to Revelations, the place where we communicate truth to power. I am Cole Johnson, and I am so thankful that you are able to join us. Now, this next guest, how can I describe him? New England is swimming all in his blood, just like college and pro football. He's unafraid to talk about life and mix it in with sports coverage, and he's willing to talk about sports or the broadcasting industry with any of them. Ladies and gentlemen, the host and producer of the Fifth Down Sports Show, Mr. Chris Dietz. And this is his revelation. How you doing, sir?
Hey, how you doing, Cole?
Everything is good. Everything's good. Everything is wonderful, man. Glad that you're able to join me, man. And I hope that this experience is going to be a good one for you, because I really appreciate getting to know you over this past year.
It's been a wild ride, and I'm so thankful to you guys. I look forward to coming on Snowman in the morning. I look forward to that. I look forward to that almost as much as I look forward to doing Fifth Down. And getting in the chat room every day. It's definitely a fun time. Get to express myself a lot more, and I'm just thankful for you guys for having that kind of a platform.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a lot of the broadcasting. You don't get that a lot from, especially the media out here.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to, and I've listened to sports radio my whole life. I live in Connecticut.
Right.
The WFAN is the heart of sports media. I mean,
right.
sports radio. There wasn't sports radio before WFAN.
Right.
So I grew up on that. I grew up on Mike Francesa and Mike and the Mad Dog.
Right.
All those guys, Steve Summers, and all those guys. And the one thing that really was hard to get to do was to get through to them. When they would talk about something, you'd sit there and go, "Oh, I can't believe you said that. I want to respond to, I want to respond." And,
right.
You'd call up, and if you had, and it's one of the things, like, if you had a different opinion than them, it was like, "Oh no, we don't want to talk about that right now." Like, you would you'd get on the phone with a producer and be like, I want to talk about this that Steve just said. "Oh no, we're done with that topic." It's like, I called you, like, I'm calling your show. I want to engage. And it was like, no, we're not doing that. It's like that, that was kind of the foray for me to be like, that's not how, and that it kind of shaped how I run my show.
Right.
With, like, if somebody wants to talk, I don't care what I'm talking. I don't care if I'm talking about the NFL and somebody calls up, I want to talk about hockey. All right, we're switching to hockey, like, right now, because that's what caller, that's what a listener wants to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that you guys engage in all of that. And I've really tried to put that in my show. So you guys are helping shape me. I'm helping shape you guys. It's all, it all goes full circle.
That's the beauty of just anything. To think that you to think that you are better than somebody else and you project that energy. No. We all can stand to learn something from somebody, and we're going to learn a whole lot about you, sir, because I think we're going to open the way right here. Now, we believe conversation starts when vulnerability enters the room, and obviously you have no issue with vulnerability. You mentioned where you are. Guilford is where your roots are. New Haven, which is not that far from Guilford, is where you are now. So describe the mentality of a New Englander.
New England's such a different place than the rest of the country. And I've toured a little bit. I've never lived in another place, but I have a lot of friends who are scattered about the country. So I have a good sense of how people are. And New England's just really different, where we are very opinionated. But New Englanders are very opinionated, but they're not going to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Like one story that showed me this is I traveled out to San Diego because one of my buddies was in the Navy. So he went out to San Diego, and I had never been out to California before. So we went out there. Me and my best friend Gino went all the way out there. And of course, sports are big in our life, and it was an NFL. It was during October, so the NFL was on NFL Sunday. And my buddy worked at a bar, so we went down there 9 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, which is awesome.
Yeah, because the kickoff in an hour would be when the East Coast games start. Right.
Kickoff is at 1 o'clock on the Eastern, which is 10 o'clock on the West Coast.
Right.
So we're sitting at the bar, and me and my buddy are like, we were talking football on the plane, and I remember it was one year where the Browns were like, the Browns were the Browns, and they hadn't won a game yet, and they were playing the Steelers. And I remember my friend Gino was terrified of flights, terrified. So to get him to calm down, I just started talking to him about sports, and I was like, dude, you can be okay. Like, let's. Right. So we started talking. And I was like, dude, you should see I was writing I wasn't doing my show at the time. I was doing a column actually. And I was picking all the games, and I told him, I said, dude, I got a funny feeling Browns are going to win this. And he starts getting into me. There's no way the Browns aren't going to beat the Steelers. What are you, nuts? And I was like, no. So we made a bet. We made a friendly bet on the plane. Oh no. And so we get to the bar, and they have like 3 TVs. So we're like, we told my friend all about it. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys made this bet. And we're like, all right. And we're like, put the Browns game on the big screen. So me and Gino, who are both from New England, we're cheering at this Browns Steelers game that none of us, my buddy's a Jets fan and I'm a Cowboys fan. So we have no stake in this other than our friendly bet that both of us just want to win.
Of course.
And this is when a guy at the bar just looks at us and goes, dude, you're in California. Nobody cares about the Browns or the Steelers. Why are you guys cheering this much?
Right.
And that was when I noticed, like, we hear it, especially in Connecticut, where sports, we're in the middle of Boston, New York. Right. We don't have a centralized team.
Right.
We had the Whalers, and then that whole debacle happened.
Yeah.
But so we don't have that. We don't have that. So we really watch everything.
Right.
We get involved in everything. It's why you see a lot of transplants in Connecticut. You see a lot of Giants fans. You see Jets fans. You see Patriots fans, but you also see Vikings fans, Steelers fans, Cowboys fans, Packers fans. Like everybody's kind of all mixed up because we don't have a centralized team. When you go anywhere else, they're usually centralized to where they are. Like we went out to San Diego, everybody was a Chargers fan. Everybody was Chargers, Raiders, and that kind of stuff. And that was all they cared about. And they were like, why do you guys care about this? And we're like, don't worry about it. We got this. But we're the only ones cheering for every game. And I realized that's what we are. Like we cheer hard for our teams, but we also pay attention to everybody else because we don't have anybody to really get after.
Right. Yeah, that I have noticed. And I'm glad you actually said that because I was feeling that energy that you were going to bring in that aspect. Because I've been wanting to ask somebody, and I'm so glad that I now know somebody who either lives in Connecticut or Rhode Island, just in between Massachusetts and New York. Uh, you're 2 hours away from New York City. You're 2 hours away from Boston. Uh, does your area claim either city, or are you staunchly all about Connecticut?
Where I live is mostly New York, is mostly New Yorkers.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with my family. All my family's from Long Island. So
Right. Because Long Island is not
and
that
and then
far from you.
my dad went to school at UConn, and my mom went to University of Bridgeport. So
Okay.
that's why we ended up in Connecticut,
Mhm.
and pretty much all my family's from Long Island. So we pretty much gravitate towards New York. But I went to school at Springfield College in Massachusetts.
Right.
So
We'll talk about that
everybody,
later.
when I went up there,
Mhm.
everybody claimed Massachusetts.
Right.
So I'm in the middle of both, and I don't claim either of them. I could care less about either one of them.
Mhm.
I do enjoy Boston more than New York City, as far as like where I would go, and where I like to see and sightsee.
Mhm.
Boston's a more I want to say touristy city.
Right.
New York is kind of, everything is just fast.
Mhm.
Everything is just coming out. If you're not ready for it, New York will eat you alive.
Right.
You know,
That sounds all right. That sounds about right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Whenever I haven't visited Boston yet. I have visited New York a few times, and yeah, it's like everything just comes at you. Even as a tourist, it just comes at you fast and furious. And if you aren't prepared for it, I can see how you could be swept under the undertow of the inertia that is what New York City brings. So yeah, I totally understand that.
I mean, if you're not paying attention in New York, you'll all of a sudden you'll be three blocks away from where you're supposed to be, and you'll be like, oh, it's right around the corner, and then all of a sudden you're 3 blocks in the wrong direction, in the other direction, and you're like, once you get lost in New York, you're done.
Yeah.
So it's a tough place. Boston is much more slower. You know, there's a lot more stuff. It's a lot more spread out. So I do enjoy Boston a lot more than I do New York.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Yeah, because I have a question later that I think it may shape exactly the answer that I just got. So when you were young, what did you like to do? What hobbies did you have? And if it wasn't sports related, what hobbies were they?
Well, I got to tell you, when I was a kid, and it's surprising that I'm where I am now doing sports radio, because when I was a kid, I used to call my own games in the backyard, like by myself, calling the game, like, oh, here's the pitch, boom, doing that. So everybody thought I was going to go into sports radio, and then my life went a different way, and then I came back to it later on. So sports were always my thing. Right. And it was always our thing as a kid. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine about this the other day, which is pretty funny. We're talking about kids these days. Like, and people always ask me, how did you become a Cowboys fan? And I'm like, we didn't watch football. I never sat down and watched a football game until I was probably 12 years old.
Okay.
On Sundays, it wasn't about watching football. We were out at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, it was meet at the football field, and we're going to play football.
Right.
The only time we would watch some of the football game was when we went in for lunch. And that was for like an hour. And then we would run back outside and go and play football until it got dark, and we couldn't see anymore. So that was kind of our thing. And we used to do this we used to have neighborhoods. Our neighbors were close. We used to have sports tournaments every week. It was something different. It was all right, we're gonna play soccer today. We're gonna play football. We're gonna do basketball and 2-on-2 tournament. Get your neighbors, get your brother and sister, and we're gonna go in the backyard and we're gonna play.
Right.
Whatever sport it was. So we did a lot of sports. So sports was always my thing. Always doing something different. But when we weren't doing sports, all right, so I lived in a community when I was really young, and then my dad got a chance to buy a house and put his business in the same house. So we moved close to the center of town, which happened to be right across the street from a brand new comic book store. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got into comics, is because when my parents worked. So during the summer, they were like, here's $20. You and they'd give $20 to my older brother and say, here, this is for lunch for you guys. Figure out something to do for lunch. So me and my brother would always be like, all right, let's get the cheapest thing we can for lunch. Right. We'll spend the rest of it at the comic book store. Mm-hmm. And we would go back, and I'm pretty sure we put the comic book store out of business because the guy in there was awesome. The guy who owned it was like the best guy ever. Right. But we would walk in there and we would buy, we'd get our small little comics and we'd get our cards and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the guy would always be like, oh, you guys want those? Yeah, they're $3 a pop, but for $3, I'll let you get. You can get three of them for $3. You can get 2 for free. Like, he was always giving us free stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm pretty sure that if he had charged us for those, he would still be in business. Mm-hmm. But we were in there every day, and so he would always just give us free stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got into comics, and that's why comics is such a big part of my life. And I got into that. But as far as other things, I've learned this as I got older and as I went to school. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. Like, I could read something 900 times and I have no idea what I'm doing. You could tell me how to do something 900 times. I'll have no idea what I'm doing. But I could do something once and I'll know how to do it for the rest. So I've never been much of a, reader, much of that kind of stuff. I'm always like, all right, let me do it and act it out, and then I'll know what I'm doing. So that's basically what I did growing up.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I can see how that would be for your personality. That totally makes sense. Well, as you heard, Chris, he definitely is open to way because, he just got it like that. Sports journalist and the host and producer of the Fit Down Sports Show, Chris Dietz, joined me here on Revelations. He just opened the way for us all, and now it is time for us to walk across that bridge to prosperity. Now, at the bridge, we link childhood lessons to adult application. So, sports history is huge with you. That's the one thing I have learned, if anything. In the geographical realm of sports history, which area do you claim more, New York's or Boston's?
I claim New York. Mm-hmm. Most of my fandom comes from New York. Obviously I'm a Mets fan, and that was my first team. Yeah. My first team was the New York Mets because my grandfather was a Mets fan, and he always made us watch the Mets games.
Mm-hmm.
And so baseball was always my first love. And we actually used to go to Yankee games a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young, we would go to the Yankee Stadium, and I remember we tried to get opening day tickets, and opening day tickets to Yankee Stadium were basically ungettable.
Yeah.
So having the Mets there, my parents they said, well, if we can't get to Yankee Stadium, why don't we get opening day at Shea? And that's, it ruined my perfect attendance record at school, because we used to take the day off every year. Opening day,
Mm-hmm.
we take it off, go to Shea and watch the game. And it's one of those things I'll always remember going to Shea Stadium for opening day. I'll never forget. It's why it's such a special day for me. Now as an adult, I love opening day because I can remember all those times.
Mm-hmm.
So and then when the Whalers, as I said, the Whalers were here, I was a big Whalers fan because I liked hockey.
Right.
But when they left, I said, all right, I'm going to get a new team. And I jumped to the Rangers because my brother was an Islanders fan. So I had to be at odds with my brother. So that's why I jumped on the Rangers bandwagon. And so I have Mets and Rangers, but I do have that Boston connection because I am a Celtics fan. So that's my Connecticut in me, that I can go to both cities, because I just hated the Knicks, and they haven't given me a reason to like them pretty much ever. So I was perfectly fine jump into the Boston Celtics. And football, like I said, we just didn't care. And the reason I became a Dallas Cowboys fan is actually the same reason I became a Rangers fan is, but but instead of it being my brother, it was my friends around me.
Mm-hmm.
All my friends were Giants fans. All my friends were Giants fans, and the Canes across the street were 49ers fans.
Mm-hmm.
So I had all of that. And the one game I remember watching was when the Washington Redskins were really good. And the Dallas Cowboys were 0-13. And we're watching them play. And, we only watched like an hour a day. We had no idea what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But we're watching them play, and I'm like, dude, this blue team is awesome. And all my friends, they're Giants fans and 49ers fans. They go, Cowboys, they haven't won a game. They stink. I'm like, yo, watch this team. They're going to be nasty. Of course, that was the year they won one game. And so all my friends are like, they only won one game. And I'm like, what? Just give it. I was like, give it a couple years. Well, 2 years after that, 2 years after that, they won the Super Bowl. And I was like, see, I told y'all this was going to happen. And so I basically became a Cowboys fan just to spite my friends. And then it blew up into all of that. And then, of course, I got caught up in all of the Cowboys of the 90s. So that was when we started watching football for real. And then, it took off from there. Of course, every time I've tried to get out of being a Cowboys fan, they've pulled me back in somehow. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about not being a Cowboys fan in high school. And of course, I start playing football where I'm a wide receiver and a corner. Well, who did the Cowboys get? Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, who was a wide receiver and a defensive back. So I was like, this guy, I can root for this guy. So I started rooting for him. And I was like, he plays for the Cowboys, so I'm still a Cowboys fan. Mm-hmm. When I got out of high school, and I was really into coaches, which at the time the Cowboys had Dave Campo, and I was like, well, he stinks. I don't want to be a Cowboys fan because I hate Dave Campo. Who do they pull in?
Bill
My
Parcells.
favorite coach of all time, Parcells. So I'm like, all right, I'm trying to get away from y'all, and you just keep pulling me back in. So after Parcells, I was like, well, I'm just giving up now. I'm just diving right in. I'm just gonna enjoy my Cowboy fandom.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was the one thing that threw me for a loop. I was like, okay, so this New Englander, all right, so or he likes the Mets, he likes the Celtics. All right, that's cool. The Cowboys. I was like, how in the world did I love this story though. You
Again,
became Cowboys fan despite your
out of
friends.
spite. It's just out of spite of everyone else. And
That is hilarious. Oh gosh. All right.
and
So
that's why I don't take the Cowboys seriously. As far as like when enough people bash the Cowboys and everybody bashed the Cowboys and I bash the Cowboys more than I bash my teams more than I bash anybody else's. Because I take
to be the case, yeah.
I take my fandom hard. Like when my team is good, I will tell you my team is good. When my team is bad, I will tell you my team is bad.
Yeah,
I will tell you my team is bad, and it's why I hate doing live. I hate when my team is playing live and I'm on the radio because I can't.
On every play, yep.
If you sat there and listen to me watch a game, it's awful, especially a Cowboys game. And well, I mean, I used to write for an all Cowboys site. It was called the Landry Hat. I think they're still up. I have no idea. But I used to write for them. My very first article was fire Jason Garrett, and this was like 6 years before they even fired him.
Oh, you're a smart man.
You know, I literally my first article, and after I wrote it, the guy was like, I don't think this is gonna work for our fan base. And I was like, well, this is what they need to hear.
Yeah.
I was like, they need to hear this now because this is gonna happen. And yeah, so yeah, it was just weird that the first article I wrote, the guy was like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna work out for us. And I was like, all right, dude. I was like, I'm not gonna recant it.
That's funny. So basically, they wanted you to take the stance of the clapper. That's right. Everything is good. Yeah, we may have got skunked in this game, but cheer up. The next one's going to be fine. Check it off. We got them 5 rings. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but hearing me yell at Jason Garrett, first and goal at the 2-yard line. Run the ball. Pass out of the end zone. Jason Garrett, run the ball. And everybody, when now it's funny because I moved here to West Haven, and the bar I go to now is actually basically a Cowboys bar. I mean, the bartender's a Cowboys fan, and there's a bunch of Cowboys fans in there. We have a bunch of mixed fans, but I call it a Cowboys bar because Christina's a Cowboys fan, and she runs the bar. But so it's funny, but when I was not younger, but when I was in my adolescence, my 20s, I went to bars that weren't Cowboys bars, and everybody, why are you screaming? We can hear you from the bathroom. And I'm like, yeah, because my team is because my team is just that much. They're causing me that much to scream at the TV. That's when I learned, yeah, I need to watch the games up by myself because people are getting upset about this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's when you know that you're a fan of your team. Look, we're recording here. The team I root for is the Texans in the NFL. That's the team I root for. Hot garbage, and I'm not afraid of saying that. I'm not even afraid to say it to Texas fans. The team and the organization is hot garbage. I root for them, but they're horrible. So I'm with you on that. You mentioned earlier that you went to Springfield College. You studied phys ed or physical education. What was your goal with that degree?
Technically, I studied movement and sports studies, which
Movement
is
in
the
sports.
long-winded term for physical education teacher. They try to put as much spin on it as they can. Oh, it's not phys ed, it's movement and sports studies. And I'm like, calm down. I'm here for PE, get out of the way. No, it's actually funny. When I was thinking about, like I said, I grew up and I was thinking about communications and doing, sports journalism or,
Right.
something in radio.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a junior in high school, I tore my ACL.
Mm-hmm.
I tore my ACL in my very first varsity game, very first play. I spun and my knee stuck in the ground and it didn't move.
Oh, man.
And I didn't know it was my ACL at the time, but I just felt my knee pop and ran off to the sidelines. I said, Chuck, what I don't know what's happening. And he tested it out and he's like, we're going to have to get something on it. I was like, can you just tape it up so I can go back in? And I went back in. I finished the game. I had no idea what happened. But after that, he was like, yeah, you can't play the rest of the season. So I was out, and the kid who was replacing me was in my English class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there with him, and we're looking at the report. We're looking at the scouting reports and everything. And I'm teaching them all this stuff. I'm like, all right, if they come out like this, you need to move down here. If they have 3 wide, you need to back up so you can play safe, so you can be the deep safety. I'm doing this in the middle of English class. Like we're watching a movie. I forget. I think we were watching A Great Gatsby or something. I forget. I don't even know what we were doing, because I was just sitting there teaching this kid how getting him ready for Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And my English teacher, who was the hockey coach, pulls me aside and he said, do you even know what we did today? And I said, no. I was like, does it matter? And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, I could. He goes, yeah, I could tell. He goes, man, you'd make a good teacher and coach.
Mm-hmm.
I had never thought about it before. And I was like, that sounds about right. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started to look into it. And at the time, we had all these, like, I don't know if you guys had it in your school, but I went to a private school. Mm-hmm. So we had, from junior year on, we had colleges coming in. We had like college fairs where you would just go around and different schools would apply. One of the schools I looked at was Western New England College.
Okay.
And they actually sent a recruiter out to talk to us, and they wanted me to come play football for them. And Western New England was really cool. And it's in Springfield, Massachusetts. But they had called me because originally before that, I had put down I want to do communications. And after my conversation with my teacher, I realized I wanted to go into phys ed.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them, I said, actually, they said, do you still want to do communications? And I said, actually, I'm thinking about doing phys ed. And they said, the college guy on the phone was like, well, we don't have that, but the best school for phys ed is Springfield College, and it's right across the street. And I was like, and I was on the phone with the guy from Western New England. I went, okay, hung up, called Springfield the next day and was like, hey, do you guys do tours? Went up, took a tour of Springfield, and I was like, all right, I can go here. That's basically how it happened. The guy said, they're the best. I said, they're the best. All right, click. Called up the next day, went over there. So.
Wow. Yeah. So, who knew you actually have the propensity to break down things sports wise? I don't know if I know that side of you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so bad. I'm so bad at that. I'm so bad at this because like I always got in trouble for that even before I did my radio show, before I did all of that.
Mm-hmm.
one of my best friend's wives would always get on me because my Facebook posts would always be about sports. And she was like, all you do is talk about sports. She's like, can you talk about anything else on your Facebook? And I'm like, why? I'm like, what else is Facebook for? I was like, is there anything else going on? I was like, no, because I just want to talk about sports. But that's how I live my life. Like, I basically relate everything to sports. Right. Like, everything is like, all right, this, when I'm at work and it's nearing the end, I'm like, all right, this is the fourth quarter. We just got to get through this here. And, I relate almost everything to sports because it's just how I rationalize what goes on. Cause it's what's normal to me. Even things that happen, even things that are happening in the world, like if a news story comes up, I put it almost in perspective of sports. How would you deal with it? How would a sports person deal with this? Or how does this relate to a game? Like that's the way I understand things. And if I can't relate it to sports, I'm like, I can't, I'm never going to figure this out. So.
Wow.
It's always a good, I always think of it as a good method. Like, I'm always like, oh, this person's like the sub that we bring in. And like, there are different scenarios. Every single scenario, I can almost bring it back to some aspect of sports.
Right.
And that'll make me understand it.
Yeah. That's the vibe I get with you. Well, we sufficiently walk across that bridge, and man, I'm looking forward to hearing more of what Chris has to offer. Sports journalist and host and producer of the Fifth Down Sports Show, Mr. Chris Dietz. He's joining me here on Revelations. He has opened the waves, walked across that bridge, and now it is time to get behind the purpose. Now, behind the purpose, it is the reason why we function the way we do. And you just got finished saying that, you relate everything to sports. So what got you into sports journalism in the first place?
Well, like I said, I was always doing that. I was always doing this. I was always breaking down sports. And finally, I got, Facebook's a weird thing. And I got into a sports. I didn't even know groups existed until somebody told me, oh, there are these Facebook groups that you can get in. So I jumped in, and I jumped into one of these groups, and it turned into just basically debating people back and forth, which I basically got tired of. But, it was fun to go in, see what people are thinking, and meet like-minded people. And I ended up meeting a friend of mine, Kim, and she had a hockey show.
Right.
She had a hockey radio show. And I was like, I like Kim, and she's got a show, so I'll support her show. And she took live callers. So I was like, I'll call in because I have time. So I called in to her every week. I would call in, and finally she was like, why don't you just do your own show? And I was like, is that a thing? I was like, that's a thing. I was like, I was like, well, I don't even know how to do that, but sure. And so that's how I got my start. Is she hooked me up with the guy who was running the network she was on, and it just snowballed from there. And I looked at the shows that they had. They had her doing a hockey show. They had a baseball show. They had an NFL show, but they didn't have anybody talking about college football. So I said, I'll do a college football show.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you guys can have all the NFL stuff, and I don't have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have to do is college.
Mm-hmm.
So I jumped at that chance, got in, started doing my college football show. And it was actually funny. I was actually on the phone. I was actually on the phone with Kim while I was talking to one of my friends I played softball with at the time. And I was telling him, I was like, they want me to do a radio show. And he was like, I'll do it with you. I was like, all right. I was like, I have a co-host. All right, let's do it. So that's how my show started. It was just like, Kim was like, you want to do it? And I was like, sure. And I was like, Walrus, you want to jump on this with me? And he was like, sure. He was like, yeah, I'll do it. So he would come over my house. And we would just sit in my living room and do the show. And we had no idea what we were doing. I still don't know. I still have no idea what I'm doing. I just basically make it up. Make it up as I go along. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't plan things out like, oh, I'm going to do this week. I'm going to do this next week. Like my show is basically, all right, what's news in the top, what's topical, and then whatever we're talking about, let's just roll with it, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, so you go see your pants type of thing. Okay, I think I can understand that. I can totally understand that. Now, we met through a mutual friend of ours, of course, Brian Snow, and brother, of course, we love you. All day, every day, you already know. And then you just mentioned in the last question that you started to cover college football. And I never heard anybody have such a passion about that particular area. And I'm talking about analysts on national TV, and I'm talking about those who actually played college football and then they later became an analyst themselves. Where did your passion for college football come from?
Well, it always came from, like I said, growing up, I played football. I played football all the time. But I was one of those kids with overprotective parents that I would play. My parents would let me play with the neighborhood kids. They didn't care about that.
Right.
But playing, organized football, no, wasn't allowed. My parents, I'll get injured. I was told that my whole life.
Right.
You'll get injured playing that. Yet we used to play full tackle without pads.
On concrete.
They had no idea. They had no idea what we were. My parents had no idea that sending me off to play with the neighborhood kids, we were full on tackling each other with no pads and no organized fields. It was, there was like concrete slabs in the middle of our field, and we didn't care. Right. But I was, since I was always playing with the neighborhood kids, the local coach would call my parents every year. You need to sign him up. You need to sign him up. And every year it was the same thing. No, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt. So my brother is the one. I went to public school my whole life. And then all of a sudden my brother who's 2 years older than I am. He got to high school. He got to middle school in the 8th grade and was like, well, I'm going to go to Notre Dame high school. I'm going to go to Notre Dame. And I was like, have fun with that, dude. I'm not going there. And then of course, when I got to 8th grade, my parents looked at me and said, guess where you're going to high school? And I was like, dang it. So I made a deal and I said, look, if you're going to send me there, if you're going to make me leave all my friends, when I get there, I'm playing football. And so we made, my parents made that deal. And, freshman year playing football, it was the same thing. Like I said about my Cowboys fandom, how somehow they always drew me back in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my freshman year, I was, there were so many kids on the team, and I was not playing that much. And I was like, this is useless. I don't really want to do this anymore. And of course, as I said that, I told my coach, and my coach said, just stick it out for one more week. And I was like, okay. Of course, that game I catch a touchdown, and I'm like, all right, now I feel good about this. So I was like, now I'll stick around. Now I'll stick around to this, and it turned out being what it is. And like I said, I've always loved the coaching aspect. It's why I love football so much. It's more. It's not about what's going on the field. It's the most coaching that there is. Like baseball, you can't coach. You could teach somebody, but you can't coach them to throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah,
it's all and you can't coach somebody how to hit a 95-mile. It's all reaction.
Yeah, you're right.
It's reacting to it. Basketball, yeah, you can coach, you could draw some stuff up, but when a guy has the ball one-on-one and there's no coaching to that play. It's one-on-one, that guy against that guy. Mm-hmm. In football, that doesn't happen. It's all about the 11 guys doing what the coach is planning.
Right.
So I've always loved that aspect. And like I said, I got injured my junior year, and I was teaching kids how to play. I remember my senior year, like you said, I'm from Guilford. Right. But I went to a private school. Well, my senior year, we ended up playing against Guilford. So it was all the kids I grew up with.
Right.
I knew every kid on the other team. I knew every kid on the team. Knew their strengths and weaknesses. I walked into the meeting that week. I walked in a Sunday practice, and I went, Coach D, I got this. I was like, do that. I was like, this is what they're gonna do. This is where you're gonna. I was like, put an extra defensive tackle right here. They can't stop us. Our coach goes, huh? Let me take a look at that. We sit down for our Monday meeting, and he goes, I was looking at the plays, and I think we're going to put an extra defensive tackle in. And, as I always tell you guys, I was like, hey, gee, where'd you hear that one?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you hear that one from, Coach? And just busted it, just breaking his balls. And he's like, yeah, shut up, Dietz.
Typical coach response.
and it's actually a really, really funny story about that game, because we were the game of the week. Everybody was talking about us in the paper. It was us against Guilford, and Guilford hadn't been scored upon, and it was like 3 games into the season, and they had unscored upon defense and all this. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Coach, just do this. We'll score every time. Yeah, we scored 54 points on them. And it's funny because, I grew up, like I said, I went to public school. So I get invited to Guilford High School reunions. I've been invited to their high school reunion more than I've been invited to my own high school. But I was actually at the reunion one day, and these 2 kids that were on the football team were talking, and they were like, remember how good we were senior year? And I'm standing behind them getting a drink at the bar, and I'm listening to their conversation, and I just grab my beer and I just go, oh, yeah, you guys were undefeated, right? Till you played who? And the kid turned around and he went, the hell are you doing here? And I was like, yeah, till you played us, right? And I just walked away. But that's what got me into really enjoying the coaching aspect of it. I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, I went on to play. I played 1 year in college. I walked on, and unfortunately, like 3 weeks into the season, I pulled my groin, and I missed about 2 weeks of practice. And after watching practice a little bit, and it it was so different from high school where I just got to the point where I was like, it's Division III. This isn't worth it. And it's not worth me doing all this effort and to do. And it was really the fact that the college coach, was just the complete opposite of my high school coach. And I was like, he's making this not fun. And I want it to be fun. That's how I learned how to coach. And I said, I'm gonna go do my own thing. So when I stopped playing football, I started to realize, the better aspects of coaching. And when I got out of high school, when I got out of college, I coached at the high school level for a couple of years. And that was one thing that I always remembered was, if I don't keep this fun, these kids they're not gonna want to play. So it's always been something that's been in the back of my mind. And I try to bring that to what I do now. When I analyze a game, I'm analyzing it from the coach's box. I'm not looking at it from the players. I'm not looking at it from a fan. I'm looking at it from a coach's side of what could they have done differently, or what should they do. And I think I mean, you can tell me. I think that's how I try to present it. And if it comes across that way, awesome. If it doesn't, well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Here's the interesting aspect about that. So it took me a minute to look at it from that aspect, just all sports from that aspect, but definitely football. Until I really fell in love with trenches play, until I fell in love with how defensive lines got down and how offensive lines got down. It was literally all about how a casual fan would approach the sport. Okay, who has the ball? Where is the ball? Who scored the most points? Who threw the most yards? Who ran for the most yards? Who scored the most touchdowns? It was more along those lines. But as soon as I got to understand, so Aaron Donald shot that A gap pretty strong, and he did it with two defenders. Wow. I mean, he did it with two offensive line engaging him. Wow. I'm surprised the offensive coordinator didn't try to chip him. I started to think along those lines, and that's when I started to enjoy the sport more. So I totally get why you would have that approach, and you had it a lot sooner than I got it, because I wasn't that way when I was in high school or even in college. I probably got that way when I was 30, but yeah, you had that coach's mindset a lot sooner than I got it.
Yeah, and like I said, when I moved into when I coaching was so much fun. It just it takes so much out of it. It takes so much, adulting gets in the way. Like, coaching was so much fun that I was like, if I could do this, it would be it's just fun, but you can't live off a part-time coaching salary. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, when we were playing, when I was playing college, the reason why college is so hard, I probably would have kept playing in college, but it's everything else that comes with it. It's everything else that comes. This is basically why I quit football. I quit football because because we were football players, we had to go to mandatory study halls. Mandatory study hall for 2 hours a day. So I took as you said, I took PE. Okay, so all of my class, and because I had practice, all of my classes I had to get in before I had to get them in before 3:00.
Right.
So I had to get every class in before. So I was up at 7 a.m. to go to class. From 7 to 3, I was in class, maybe like an hour break here and there. But most of the time I was in class from 7 to 3. Then I was at practice from 3 to 6. Then it was 6 to 6:30 dinner. And then it was 7 to 9. I had to go to mandatory study hall. I wasn't getting back to my room until 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And it didn't matter. It didn't matter what your grades were. If you were a freshman, you had to go.
Right.
And I was like, can I leave? I was like, all I have to do is study. And they're like, no, you can't. I'm like, I can do this from my room. Like I don't have to be here. This being gone from 7 a.m. till 10 at night. I was like, no, this is way too much time. If it was just, 6 o'clock, I get to go home, I probably would have stuck it out. But the fact that I was getting home at 10 o'clock at night, I was like, nah, I'm exhausted I'm exhausted. I don't want to have to be here. So a lot of that's, and people don't know how much that plays in. And especially when we look at the college athlete, what they have to go through.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think, oh, they show up, they get all this stuff handed to them and blah blah. I'm sure all the good players, I'm sure they get a lot of perks.
Well, I'm sure, yeah, they definitely do. But
it's a grind what they have to go through, and I understand that, and that's why I love analyzing college, because all the stuff that they have to go through, and I try to relay that, because I don't put any blame on these kids. It's all about, that's why I love the college game, because it's all about coaching. It's all about coaches making sure that the players are kept away from all that stuff. If a player falls out of line, it's not because the player's bad, it's because the coaching staff doesn't know what they're doing. I hold them more accountable than I do the players, especially at the college level.
And you have to, in my opinion. I mean, you're dealing with 18, 19, 20, and 21, if you're fortunate, 22-year-olds. The adult in the room who leads these players, normally they are no younger than 40. Now, you might have some who are younger than that, but you're talking between 40 and 60. So if you're going to be the adult in the room and you're leading a program that has 60, 70, 80, 90 men that are young, that have never made a huge big time decision in their lives, or I should say the only big time decision they made in their lives is they're playing in your program, then yeah, whenever they do not do what they're supposed to do, the fault should lie on the head coach's shoes. It should fall in his desk, and it should fall in his lap. No question about that.
And I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You see the big networks, they a lot of times they do not hold these coaches. They don't hold coaches or athletic directors as accountable. And I can say this from the first season I did my show, we held coaches and athletic directors accountable more than anybody. And I can say this, we predictably fired about 6 or 7 coaches before the season even started. And each and every one of them that we fired ended up getting fired at some point in that season. Because we said it. We said it just looking at the programs, and we said, these kids are out of control. You can't be around. I remember Texas A&M was one of them. Tennessee was one of them. Our first show, 5 minutes in, we fired the head coach of Tennessee. I think it was Butch Jones at the time. We said, there's no way this guy lasts. 3 weeks into the season, he was fired. There was one guy, I think the athletic director for Nebraska came out and said something stupid. And I remember my quote, I got on the air that week and I said, this guy should have been fired yesterday. And I woke up at 10 a.m. the next day and he was gone. And that's when I realized we're actually good at this. Like, we're actually holding this down. And it's one of the reasons why we beat the big networks to the punch, is because we hold everyone accountable to the same measure. I don't care who you are. I don't care if I'm a fan of yours. If you do something wrong, I'm gonna call you on it. If you do something right, I'm gonna praise you till the end of time. But just because you did something right once doesn't mean you can't be praised. It doesn't mean you can't be bashed when something goes wrong. And that's what a lot of people don't. A lot of people in this business, they lose sight of that. They like a guy, so they're not gonna throw him under the bus. Well, just because I like you doesn't mean I can't tell you, hey, what you did was dumb.
Right.
And if you can't, and to me, if you can't do that, then you can't be in this business. Like, that's what we're here for. We're here to hold people, to praise people when they need to be, and to hold people accountable when things go bad. Because I expect nothing less than everybody from myself. If I say something wrong on the air, I expect people to call me out on it. If I say something right, I expect people to say, "Hey, you called that. You did that, and you did that right." But I'm also one of the first people. If I say something on the air that ends up not turning out, I'll be the first one to say, "Hey, I got that one wrong." And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like the story the other day from ESPN, where they misquoted Ja Morant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's okay to come out and say, "Hey, we made a mistake. Like, we got fooled." But like, as long as you acknowledge it, as long as you acknowledge, "Hey, we made a mistake. It happens. This is what we said. It wasn't real." Like, the thing about it is, if you're arrogant about it and don't correct it, that's when we have a problem. That's when I have a problem. When somebody says something completely false and will not back off it. It's like, no, you were wrong. Like, you're wrong. And just admit you're wrong, and we can move on.
Yeah, when they want to double down on the wrongness, yeah. And when it be louder and more wrong, yeah.
Or when they're wrong and they know it, so they have to go to something else. So they have to pull something else into the argument, and you're like, that has nothing to do with what we're talking. Right. You're bringing up stuff that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Like, stay on this issue until we get that fixed. And we've actually said that on my show from day one of my show. Our tagline has been, for anybody that comes on, just tell me, you're not gonna convince me. So just tell me why you're wrong. Just tell me why you think that, and we can have these discussions. It's like I said, listening to sports radio all my life, all you hear are people. You don't really hear the arguments. Mm-hmm. You hear people call up, "Oh, Mike, you're so great. I think what you said is so right." And I'm like, where are the people that disagree with what you're saying? Like, right. I want to hear from them. Mm-hmm. I want to hear the other side of the argument. I heard your side. I want to hear the other side. Well, and I love, don't get me wrong. I love when people agree, when I say something that people agree with. I love hearing that. But I learn more when somebody disagrees with me. When somebody says, wait, I believe this way. And I have to sit there and go, wait, you believe, classic example. Mm-hmm. And we use it all the time. Michael versus LeBron. I love hearing people, I'm in Michael's camp, but I will always listen to the other side. Well, tell me why I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Because once you explain your reason, now I know where you're coming from. Right. And again, I take that to all aspects. When when we're sitting here having it, if I'm sitting in the middle of a political discussion, I know what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you think.
Right.
If you think differently than me, I need to know why you think that way.
Right.
So that maybe it's something you had it when you were grown. Maybe you grew up differently than me. Maybe you live in a different part. Maybe your life experiences are different than mine. And maybe if I was looking at it from your perspective, I would think that way too. So that's why I approach every conversation that way. Of tell me that you're not going to change my opinion, but at least I'll know where you're coming from. That's why I always say, tell me why you're wrong. I'm going to think you're wrong. I'm going to think you're wrong no matter what.
Right.
I just want to know why.
Yeah, that's a wonderful aspect and a wonderful wrinkle in an argument. And the thing that I think I love about what you just said, the nuance of having sports conversation is so that we can be more informed with whatever opinion we may have or whatever take we may have. Because the more varied and the more expanse our opinion, the better of a journalist or a talking head or an analyst that you would be. So these nuanced conversations, I think, are necessary. But when you get to the spot where it's like, okay, well, and I do have some of these God unplanted on the heel moments. One of them being Jordan and LeBron, but it's more along the lines of which one do I think is better. Outside of that, you can debate whatever you want about the two, because there are some things about LeBron that he does do better than Jordan, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I also know that the opposite is true too. But if you're not going to listen to why I'm saying the opposite is true, and you're going to be like, well, LeBron is just the greatest, and it was just open and shut for you, well, what's the point in having the discussion?
Yeah, and you're not, this is, and again, I'm just speaking from a viewer's point, because I grew up watching all these shows, and I grew up watching all these debate shows, and just hearing people go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, you're not going to change the other person's mind. Your goal as a show, my goal as a show is not to sway anybody's. I'm just going to put the facts out there. I'm just going to put the story the way I see it out there. And my goal is not to change your mind. My goal is to put it out there. And if it makes you think differently, awesome. If it makes you agree with me, fantastic. Like that's awesome. But the whole goal is not to, I'm right and I'll always be right. The goal is, hey, this is how I see it. Here it is, and we'll see what happens. Like, the thing that gets me is when people just stay on their, when people get on their soapbox and they stay on, this is how it is, and I'm not changing. I'm like, no, that you have to evolve with all your stuff. I mean, perfect example in the news today is the Deshaun Watson case. When the Deshaun Watson case blew up, everybody came out and said from the beginning, this guy's a monster. This is what he did. And I'm like, you need to calm. I'm like, we need to take this in steps because things are going to change in this real quick. I said it the first minute that story broke. I said, this isn't the end. We're at the beginning. I said, I'm not making any judgments until I get all the facts here. But I saw people coming out, this guy will never play again. And I was like, slow your roll down. then we started looking into it, and we've had discussions on Snowman in the Morning. We've had news break left and right in this story. And at every turn, there's always those people that are, nope, he should be gone forever. I'm like, the facts have changed, man. look at what's going on. But there are people that, nope, whatever what I said from day one, I'm sticking to it. And it's like, all right, there's no sense debating you, because if you're not going to change, if you're not going to evolve your position, then there's no sense in us talking.
Right. And I'll admit, with that particular case, yeah, my stuff has evolved, and it had to evolve. Because I said, this guy ain't been in jail for jaywalking. What makes me think that that he would do anything that would be I'll be blunt, ignorant as doing this thing, and settling with many of them. I'm like, okay, well, I guess there is some smoke here, unfortunately. But yeah, and I.
Well, that was the thing. That was the weird thing about that case. Well, when it first broke, it was like it was one or two. When the first case came out, I said, this doesn't sound like that. This does not sound like the Deshaun Watson I know. This doesn't sound like him. Then all of a sudden it was 3 cases. Then it was 6. Then it was 20. Then it got up to 20. And it was like, okay, this is growing. So there's something. There's something here.
Right.
Something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started to get to, all right, how, and then it started to get, all right, how did we get here? And that's when I jumped in, like, whoa, there's factors that nobody's even looking at right now. There's other factors here that we need to investigate more. And I watched people talk about this. I watched other people talk about it. They don't even care. No, it's one-sided, and we're not even gonna entertain the other side. And it's like, there are 2 sides to every story. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. If I didn't see it, then there's 2 sides to the story. Like, if I'm physically in the room, then there's only one side I need, mine.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not there, and there's 2 people in the room that are saying 2 different things, I can't just take one person's word. I have to take both, see what matches, see what doesn't.
Yeah.
But that's the way I approach most stories. And because if I'm not there to physically see it, I have to listen to both sides.
Right.
Because I can't take one person's word.
Right. Yeah. And if you were to do that, that would make you or me or anybody in this industry an irresponsible journalist, because we're supposed to weigh all these sides and not really take one, but to basically say, okay, here's this side, the truth. Almost every bit of it seems to be in the middle every time you have these types of stories. Here is what you should be not necessarily thinking about. This is what you should be hearing. That this, I mean, because 2 + 2 = 4 here. You're just dealing with the 2 that's in the equation that has not been solved yet.
But that's just that, and that's the real thing. That's why Snowman in the Morning exists. That's why the Fifth Down Sports Show exists. We exist because the big time media is not doing that.
No.
My show exists because I look at both sides.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch big time media, whether it's anything, whether it's Fox News, MSNBC, ESPN, ABC News, any of those outlets, when you watch them cover a story, you see that and and I've grown up. I've grown up watching all of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bleeding into YouTube media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are people that will come out and just slam one side of the equation, and you're like, wait, well, can't you see it from the other? Explain. We need to hear what the other side is doing.
Yeah.
We hear what the other side's thinking, and you don't hear that.
No.
You don't hear that ever. You don't hear
No.
the other side. If you're not
No.
hearing one side, then you can't form an opinion.
Right. Exactly. And that's the one entity that's the one sentence right there that I dislike about the national media spokespeople, definitely in the sports realm, is that they seem to want to have they seem to want to pick somebody who represents that one side, and it's like, okay, well, this is what I believe. You're not going to get me off of my point, and so what? And then they bring the opposite, and then they want to have the butting of heads because the butting of heads brings ratings, and sometimes that's good. But when every single piece of content is based on that particular ethos, what's the point in having that particular type of content be representative of a whole industry? It just dumbs down the conversation.
And just to go back and not to throw this company under the bus, but you go back and look at what ESPN has done from their days. The show First Take
Mm-hmm.
is a prime example of the decline of the media. If you remember, when First Take started, it was part of a bigger show called Cold Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And how they did it was, the reason I got into First Take was you got the news story. They talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
They gave you all the facts of everything that happened. I mean, maybe it was a highlight, or maybe it was, or whatever the issue was. And then they would go, all right, let's go over to Woody and Skip and get your guys' thoughts on it.
Right.
But you got the news. You got the news of the day. You got the facts before they started talking about it. Then you saw the debate segments getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
And the news part getting shorter. And now it's just, oh, the Magic played the Bulls last night and this happened. What are your thoughts? It's like, you didn't explain any of the context. We have no idea. Anybody, if you didn't watch that game, you have no idea what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, other than what they're giving us. So it doesn't make any sense to the viewer. Like, it used to be about getting the news story out there and then give a little editorial. Now it's just all editorial.
Yeah. And
you're seeing that in every kind of media. You're seeing that not just in sports, and that's why I brought up comics before. In the entertainment world, you're seeing that as well. You have people that are just slamming. You have people on all sides. You have the one people who they will defend the whatever the entity is, and the biggest thing we've been talking about lately is Marvel. There are people that will that will defend Marvel to the end of time, no matter what they do. They love it, and good for them. But they will defend it till they die. There's people on the other end that are so upset with Marvel that they don't even care, and they will just throw them under the bus for every little thing that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's those of us stuck in the middle, like, yeah, I see the problems that are happening, but yet I'm not gonna just completely throw every problem at certain people. Like, I can say, yeah, that's a problem, but I still like it. And I it's not going to stop me from doing it. So there's those of us that are stuck in the middle. And that's that's a problem. When you have the polarization is such a problem.
Mm-hmm.
When you get stuck on one side, it's like, well, that's your side. This is my side, and I'm sticking to it. Like, no, if people should be able to be in the middle, they should be able to swing from side to side, and they should be able to look at a problem and say, all right, here's the issues with it, but they've done some good things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's not the way we're headed. We're heading in the opposite direction. We're heading in the direction of, if you don't have a strong opinion about this, then it doesn't matter. No, that's not the way. That's not the way this works. If you can have strong opinions, but you need to back them up
with facts. Yes,
you need to back them up with, here's the story. Put the whole story out. Then you can go, hey, this, and this is good. But here's where I have problems. The problems that I have are bigger than the things I like. Or, hey, the problems that are there, they exist, but they're not big enough for me to get off the train.
Mm-hmm.
But people aren't okay with that.
Right.
The majority of people don't want that. They want to hear their side, and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear anything. Anything that could take away from their side. No, we don't want to hear that.
No, and it's funny you say that, and it's also funny when you're talking about Deshaun Watson earlier. The moment that the grand jury down in Texas decided to say, okay, we're not going to bring up many charges, I actually did a video about that, and I said, okay, well, it's good that he's not going to be found for anything criminal. However, this guy is guilty of something. And he's guilty of bad thinking. You realize I got roasted by somebody when I brought that opinion to him. And I didn't force it upon him. He just he watched my video and he decided to just rail against me about that because it wasn't a blanketed, right on, he's innocent type of thing. I'm like, well, are you forgetting that he's still being sued? Are you forgetting this? I haven't. So that must mean he's done something wrong. I'm sorry. And I am still a huge Deshaun Watson fan, but in this instance, not a fan of what he did. But just looking at something for more than just the narrow scope of, okay, it's a guy who has this certain hue of color, who thinks a certain way, who, because of certain history of the country, you must back this person because of it. If something positive goes on, you should just simply throw the fist and say, good job. There's more to it than that.
Yeah. And I've said it from day one. No matter what happens, Deshaun Watson is guilty of being stupid.
Thank you.
He did something stupid. Thank you. At the end of the day, I've always been a staunch, I've never given in to this. Oh, he should be suspended till the end of time. I've always been he shouldn't be. I'm like, here's how long his suspension should be, and if it's any more than that, you have to explain to me why. Mm-hmm. But I've also said I've also run into people, he shouldn't be suspended at all. And I'm like, no, he needs to be suspended just because look at where we are. We're talking about this. We're just the fact that we're talking about this just says you've taken up our time for this. You need to be suspended just for the stupidity clause of this is how dumb this is. So there needs to be something. But it also shouldn't be crazy.
No, but this has been something that has taken up 2 off seasons. We have talked about this for 2 consecutive off seasons. So to say, okay, time served, no.
But again, this is the perfect scenario of there are people that if it's not long enough,
if
it's not long enough, they're mad at you if you don't say it should. I've gotten in fights. I've gotten in not fights, but little arguments here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten in arguments with people over that he should miss at least one season. And I'm like, no, and if I say no to them, they go nuts. No, you don't believe in this, and they start that, and I'm like, no, here's why I believe that, and I start explaining it to them, but they don't want to listen.
Yeah,
there's other people that he didn't do anything wrong. He shouldn't be suspended at all, and you're like, no, he needs to be suspended for something. Yes. There are some things that they can suspend him for, and they should.
Right.
And they won't. And that same side, they won't listen. No, if it's not no suspension, I'm going to be outraged. It's like there's a good middle ground.
There's a healthy middle ground with this.
We just need to find that middle ground. We need to find out what that middle ground is. And again, going back to media coverage, I mean, you've heard stories. I've heard stories, and I've done this on your guys' morning show. I will throw this guy under the bus all day long because I have such a problem with Mike Florio. But Mike Florio has done multiple shows about Deshaun Watson's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing about how he might get off on this. About why, hey, this is not as big a deal as it should be. But he's done multiple things about how guilty he is, and we're way past that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like we already know this isn't criminal. So guilt or innocence doesn't matter.
No.
Right now. It's about it's about what's fair to the it's about what's fair to the process. What is the process being followed? And is it fair to everyone? Well, that's what we're going to find out. But these guys want to keep throwing. They want to throw him out there as much as they can and live off them. And I've said this a bunch of times. My hatred for Mike Florio and the way he does business goes back to the Super Bowl from a couple of years ago. And I play the clip on my show all the time. This is a guy who has been a staunch supporter of we need stricter rules to help protect players. And then in his run up to the Super Bowl says if Pat Mahomes runs, the 49ers need to knock him out of the game.
Good Lord.
My jaw almost hit the ground when he said that.
That is so journalistically irresponsible.
And then of course I ran over to the TV, got my tape record, got my phone out, recorded it, and put it on my show. And I run that clip all the time when I talk about it. I'm like, you can't say that.
That is so journalistically irresponsible.
Wow. If I said that as a coach, somebody would fire me.
You'd be fined or fired. Yes.
They would fire me on the spot if I told one of my players, hey, when this guy leaves, go hit him high and hard. Like, no, you can't say that.
Mm-mm.
Even I know that, and I didn't go to journalism class.
Right. Yeah. Goodness gracious.
I took one journalism class.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably why I jumped so easily into this.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the very first class, we sat down and we watched, I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of the movie Newt Rockney, All-American.
I have.
All right. It's obviously it's about Notre Dame, about the Four Horsemen, and about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what people don't know is Springfield College. It's where basketball was invented.
Of course.
There's a whole list of things that Springfield College has brought to the sports world. One of them is the forward pass. In football, correct. Was created by Amos Alonzo Stagg, who is a graduate of Springfield College.
Mm-hmm.
So as a PE major, they made me take, the history of Springfield College and sports. So ingrained from my freshman year phys ed classes, ingrained in us was Amos Alonzo Stagg created the forward pass at Chicago University in 1936. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Knute Rockne All-American, they claim Knute Rockne created the forward pass.
Oh, no.
And it's in the video. It's in the movie. And so the guy wanted us to write a review for it. And so my review for the paper, my first line was, "This movie is complete BS." And I wrote out all the reasons that it was completely false, that everything it's what it is. Knute Rockne All-American it was a propaganda video. It was made by Notre Dame to prop up Knute Rockne.
Knute Rockne,
you know, it's Ronald Reagan. He played George Gipp, George Gipp never existed. I mean, he existed, but win one for the Gipper.
Not in the folklore, not in as big of a folklore as it's become.
Everyone knows the quote, "Win one for the Gipper." It never happened.
Right.
They never spoke about it. They never spoke to each other in the hospital. Knute Rockne would never say that.
Right.
From all accounts, he would never have said that. But it made its way into the movie because it sounds good and it makes and people remember it. But yeah, my first journalistic paper was, "This movie's complete bullshit." And the funny thing is, I wrote this because I was taking it as my senior year, and I really didn't care. I was like, I'm just taking this class, just kind of to mess around. And the teacher comes out and reads all the papers, and then it was you submit them online, and then we talk about them the next day. He goes, "Only one of you got the point of this video." And he starts reading, and I go, "That's my paper."
It was you.
I go, "That's my paper." And he goes, "Yeah, only one of you got the point of this." And I was like, "Yes." I was like, "I got it." I was like, I can see this. And again, it's one of those things. Everybody wants to see the nice side. Everybody wants to see, everybody wanted to please the teacher. "Oh, this was was a good video. It taught us this, this, and this." I went, "Nope. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing this game. I'm going to tell you exactly what." And the thing is, even if he wanted to come back at me and say, everything, I don't agree with what you said. Well, all my facts are right there. So you tell me what you don't tell me what I said that was wrong, and we can talk about it. We could, but you can't.
No.
If you tell everybody what you believe and the facts to back it up, they have to say, "Well, I either believe that or I don't." And
especially if you do it with research, what else can they say? So yeah. And today's journalism, and I'm saying this as being a member of it. Most of them, not all of them, but most seem to follow one of three paths. Either what's the news that caters to what I believe? What is the news that is right in what I believe is right? And what is news that is right to who I believe this is marketed to? Instead of, okay, this is just simply the truth. Here it is. And that really is what journalism is supposed to be. I always say it's supposed to be a mirror to society. So society can look at itself and say, okay, I see the beauty in it and I see the ugliness in it too. That's what journalism is supposed to be. But especially in the sports realm, no.
And it's people that, what always gets me is when people are like, "Oh, I'm not biased." I know everyone's biased. Everybody has a bias. Everyone has a bias. There are built-in biases, whether it's your life experience or whether it's whether it's how you view the world. There's always a bias. The point of journalism is to report on the other side of your bias
Thank
is
you.
to present your side, but present the other side as
too.
well,
Right.
and then meet in the middle. That's always been the point of it.
Right.
But it's been co-opted to exactly what you said. Either writing for your audience, writing for yourself, which a lot of the people do now is I believe this way and I think you should too. Like, all right, if you believe that way, that's fine. Like, don't tell me what to believe.
Yeah. Or writing to coerce whoever is either is your boss or the bigger entity.
Like, I'll figure that out after I read your article. Like,
right.
If I like what you wrote, all right, cool.
Yeah.
If I don't, well, then I need to know why you think that way. As long as you explained why you think that way, I'm good.
Right.
But if you don't explain, if you just say, I mean, a lot of these people, well, Deshaun Watson should be suspended for a year. Why do you think that? Just because he should. And I'm like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing for you because I can't agree or disagree with you because you haven't given me nothing.
Give me anything. Right. Now I have said I believe that's what the NFL wants to do. That they want to suspend him a year, and my reasoning is they want to basically use him as I guess you could say sort of the he did this. And if you were to do this, you get this. Basically, use them as an example. I still believe that. I still believe the NFL wants to suspend him for a year because they want to make him an example of. Basically the Shield saying to the players, I don't want you all to act like what he has acted like because we're not tolerating that. But what we're seeing is the NFLPA saying it's a year that's a little too steep, and of course the Deshaun Watson camp saying if he gets suspended a year, we suing you.
And that's where I've always come out on Deshaun Watson. I've said if they want to go for a year, you're gonna have to explain to me why this is worse than other situations that have happened in the past. Like there have been other instances.
Many other situations.
You're gonna have to tell me how this one is different from the others. And you hear everybody that says, "Oh my God, it's so many women," and I'm like, yeah, but how many of those women have settled? How many of those women came out and took the money and we're in it just for that? How many were actually in fear for their, in fear of whatever? So the circumstances have changed over the course of this investigation. And, but again, if you're stuck on the, has to be your, and my thing has always been, what can how can the NFL get away with, well, we can do whatever we want. How can you say, well, you broke the personal conduct policy, so we can suspend you for 18 games?
Yeah, for however long, right?
How did you come up with that? How did you come up with that number? Like, how did the number pop into your head? Like that's what I wanted. And I always wish I was in those rooms to ask questions. Because I always hear like the beat reporters asking questions, and I'm like, where did you learn how to ask questions? Because you're asking the dumbest questions of all time. Like, all we need to know is, why do you think that way? Okay, well, let's go. Let's keep going. I mean, you wonder why, and it's why Mike Gundy is one of my favorite people of all time. You wonder why these coaches go nuts at press conferences. Like, they get asked the dumbest questions of all time, and then when they snap back, everybody's like, "Oh, look,
the coach is at fault." Yeah,
look, the coach is going crazy, and I'm like, I was like, you deserve to have that response. Like and it's one of my favorite press conferences of all time. When Mike Gundy came out and said, "I'm a man, I'm 40, come after me," and everybody was like, "Look, he's crazy, he's doing that." I'm like, he's protecting his player.
He was
That's what he's doing. And that was funny. Like, I think it was 2 years ago because I did a show. I remember I did a show on this, and I was actually just listening to it the other day because I do listen to my shows every now and then, just randomly.
Mhm.
Like people came out a couple years ago and accused Mike Gundy of being racist, and I was like, this
No.
is the same guy who defended Bobby Reed.
Right.
I was like, the
No.
whole rant was about Bobby Reed, a black quarterback.
Right. No.
So you're
it's
telling
not.
me the guy went from defending black people to being racist in 2 years? I'm sorry, I have a hard time believing this statement.
I straight up don't. But yeah. Yeah.
But I remember the controversy. They were like, "Oh, he wore a T-shirt and he's racist," and I'm like, he wouldn't defend people if he was racist. If he was racist, he wouldn't have defended a black kid.
No.
He would have just left him out there to dry, but he didn't.
Right.
So, but again, you wonder why these coaches go nuts. It's because they get asked stupid questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then the media just keeps going. Oh, well, you didn't explain that enough. Keep going, and finally they just go, I don't want to explain this anymore.
Right.
I don't want to explain this anymore because you
You're not
people are
getting it.
asking the dumbest questions of all time.
No,
Like,
you're not getting it.
I mean,
yeah.
Fizdale's a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
Take that for data. Bam. I was like, yes, Mike drop and leave the press conference because he got so mad that, oh, why was there such a disparity in calls? And he just blew up. That was a great press conference.
Hmm.
But again, it's because people have they have a story to write. And they're trying to write their side of the story. And when it doesn't match up, oh, you have to explain it. No.
Yeah, trying to write their slant. Yeah. And like I said, that's journalistically irresponsible. And yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of those examples in national media. Local media, it's understandable because, of course, they're writing about their team or they're writing about a player that they're following. But national media, and you get this, nah. And even, of course, if it is local media, you pretty much should know a lot of the stuff. And you shouldn't ask certain questions that you do still hear in these press conferences. It's like, don't you know that already? Why are you asking this question? That's something you already know. And you pretty much will know what the coach is going to respond in asking this question. Make the coach think about whatever question you have so that he actually looks even more intelligent when he answers the question. Rather than a hothead, and people will look at they'll focus just on him exploding or her exploding and not get the reason why. For example, Mike Gundy. We hear the I'm a man, I'm 40, but we told to forget why he exploded.
Yeah. Oh, I know that speech almost by heart because I've listened to it probably about 40 or 50 times because I just love it, and I think he's hilarious, and he's got a mullet, so I'm like, all right, I was like, I love this guy. This guy's crazy.
Yeah, he is.
But it was all in defense of his player, and I was like, this guy, this is why he's awesome, and this is why he'll always. I'll defend him against anything that comes out. Mm-hmm. And when the racism thing came out, I was like, I have to defend him because I can't.
Yeah, he's not.
And I remember it was just saying it. I mean, we have this in the media right now. People are going after Jim Harbaugh because he gave a speech about I don't know. It wasn't even during a football game. He was at some pro-life thing, and more power to Jim Harbaugh. Like if that's what he wants to do in his spare time, like that's his personal belief. He didn't say it on the field with his Michigan hat on. Like he went and gave a speech about what he thinks.
Yeah.
And there are now national media members that have called for he should lose his job. He shouldn't be a coach at. Wait, no, he's allowed to have a personal life.
Yeah,
he's allowed to do and say whatever he wants.
And he's also allowed to have an opinion or a stance in life where you could disagree with it, but it doesn't make him a villain.
As long as he's not doing it on the side, as long as he's not doing it on the sideline, as long as he's not taking, at a halftime interview to say, "Hey, by the way, my stance on this is what like I don't care what I've always said this. If your position is going to be swayed by an actor, a sports person, if they're going to change your political view, then your political view wasn't strong to begin with.
Well,
Like,
you just basically condemned half of our country.
like to bring it back to our favorite guy, it's the number one thing I hate about LeBron James. Like, he always has to open his mouth about every single topic, and it's like, dude, and people are like, oh my God, LeBron said this, and it's not just the people that are like, oh my God, he said this, so I believe it. It's the other side too that are like, LeBron opened his mouth about this. Can you believe he? And I'm like, I don't care that LeBron's talking. I don't care that LeBron is talking about whatever he's talking about, unless it's directed at me.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he's out there calling Boston Celtics fans racist because I happen to be a Boston Celtics fan. Like, then I have to respond. But otherwise, I don't care what LeBron thinks about anything in life. LeBron, I'm not going to change my opinion. Oh, I'm not going to be like, LeBron James said that. I need to rethink my statement. Like, no, that doesn't affect anything. But again, we're out there all the time, and there's so many of these. And again, I look at it on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that I condemn the people who believe it, and I condemn the people who are, oh, I'm totally against it because LeBron said. I'm like, you, like, oh, like the people that are like, LeBron should stick to basketball. I'm like, no, LeBron's allowed to say whatever he wants.
Yeah,
whether he should say it or not, that's
a different story.
That's a different story. But the fact that he's allowed to say it, I don't care if he said. I just don't care what he says.
Yeah,
he's allowed to say it, and we say it all the time on my show. People are allowed to be stupid. You're allowed to do You're allowed to be stupid. Like, I just because what you say is stupid doesn't mean you're not allowed to say it.
Right. I have something in mind. Man, but this is, we definitely got behind your purpose for sure. But I got something in mind. Sports journalist and host and producer of the Fifth Down Sports Show, Chris Dietz, is joining me here on Revelations, and we're going to take a hard right turn because normally you would hear bring to light. However, we're going to go in yet another direction. Now, right at home, if I have a guest who happens to have a platform like Mr. Dietz has, I normally try to take whatever some aspect of his show or her show happens to be and put it in here. So, of course, I am always intrigued by the tell us why you're wrong part, and I get why. I understand why. But I do want to just simply sit back and just let you just let loose on why you believe that LeBron James was wrong in saying that Celtics fans, or it's just not necessarily fans, Boston fans, are racist as F. I will give you the floor.
All right. why he's wrong. He's wrong first in he's wrong for so many levels on that. But is he wrong in the fact that Boston fans are passionate? No, Boston fans are passionate, and I understand that he hate that he's not, but they don't hate him because of the color of his skin. They hate him because of the color of his uniform. If he's, I mean, he comes out and says, "Well, they're racist." Oh, really? If Boston fans are racist, how come they like Marcus Smart?
Right.
How come they like
Jason
any how come they like Jason Tatum?
Jaylen Brown.
Al
Horford.
Keep going down the list. Like they're not racist. They hate you because of the color of your jersey and the fact that, guess what? You play for the LA Lakers, the Boston Celtics hated the most.
Yeah. The most hated team the Celtics fan would. Yeah.
So you're gonna get hatred. But then on top of it, he doubles down when he's asked, "Oh, why are they racist?" And he says, "Well, you hear the F-bomb, and you hear people say, F LeBron and this, that, and the other." And I'm like, have you ever? And I'm like, you're from Ohio. You're not from New England. New Englanders use that language pretty much on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this before. There are friends of mine who are some of my best friends,
mm-hmm.
who we greet each other. When we greet each other, we say, "F you, man." We're like, "Oh, this effing kid."
Mm-hmm.
But we don't. It's not said out of like. It's just how we talk. We, it's how some people talk. Now, should they be using that language in a setting where they're in a public setting? No. Like it's not respectable, but it happened. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a reason somebody would be that. But again, using that language on somebody, it's not a racial thing. That has nothing to do with your race. That has to do with the way that those people express themselves. I mean, you have had anybody who's ever been to a Boston Red Sox New York Yankees game. If you don't hear an F-bomb, at least 20 times an inning, you're in the wrong place. Like they do it all the time. So you can hear when you watch a Red Sox Yankees game, and they don't mic the crowd up anymore, because you used to be able to hear it all. You used to be able to hear it, in the background when in the old days of sports media.
Mm-hmm.
When they would, we want to get the crowd reaction. You used to hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And you could hear them trying to bleep it out. And it's like, no, you're not going to be able to do it, because the whole bleacher section is cheering, is going back and forth. That's just how it is. And, and I understand LeBron's from Ohio, like, and most people that I know from Ohio, like they don't talk that way. Like when they say those words, it's usually because somebody's really angry. That's not the case. That's not the case in New England. Like we use that word like we just throw it out there, and it happens. So that's the second thing. The third thing, which really upset me, is the fact that LeBron James, you're a part owner of the Boston Red Sox.
Oops.
You can't go out and you just called. They didn't ask you. He said Boston fans.
Right.
Well, guess what? Over 75% of people I know that are Boston Red Sox fans are also Celtics fans.
Mm-hmm.
You just called your own fan base racist, and you own part of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't do that. That's not a good marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to wonder why people hate you. And then you're going to wonder, oh, why people aren't. I mean, it's not going to happen to the Red Sox because Red Sox fans love the Red Sox.
Right.
So it's not like people are going to stop going to Red Sox games. But people do that. People do this all the time in every industry. In every industry, you're starting to see this where people blame the fan. They blame the fans. Then when the fans don't do what they want them to do, they wonder, why aren't the fans showing up? Why aren't the fans buying my stuff? Well, because you called them racist. Because you called them racist, they don't want to support you. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, you go back to a show we did a couple weeks ago. You had Star Wars people out calling Star Wars fans racist and then wondering why Star Wars fans aren't watching Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, they're not watching the show because you called them racist. You're not getting good reviews on. They tried to crowdfund a lightsaber for one of their characters, and they're wondering why they didn't reach the goal. You didn't reach the goal because you slandered half the fan base. These people don't make any sense. Like, if you come out and slander your fan base, you're not going to be able to reach your goals. And it's why I brought up, comics. I brought up a guy's comic before. Guy came out and said, we're going to give you what we're going to do this for the fans. We're going to respect our fan base, and we're going to do what we do. Guy's at $3 million in 10 days. I made $3 million in 10 days selling a comic book.
Good job, brother.
Marvel and DC are struggling to get their comics off the rack. Right now. They're struggling to meet their goals. But this guy just made $3 million and the comic hasn't even come out yet. Why? Because he didn't slander his market base before the comic came out. He didn't say he didn't say the comic is written for it's written for this certain group of people, and the rest of you, we don't care. Even if, I'll just be honest. The last month was Pride Month. So comic books put out a lot of LBG, whatever they call LBGT, whatever they're called. They put out a lot of those comics. And they said these are for that community. And then they wondered why they didn't sell good. Because you marketed it to a small community. The rest of the people were like, all right, well, you marketed it to them. It's not to me, and I don't want to get it. Right. And then they go, oh, well, the reason people don't want it is because they're racist or they're sexist or they're this, that, and the other. Well, if you slander them, you're not going to shame me into buying something. You're going to shame me into buying something I don't want to buy anyway. Right. Like, if you make it a good story, I'll buy it. But if you don't make it a good story, and that's the thing. I mean, we talked about sports, but that's the thing about media, or I mean, not even media, entertainment. Entertainment has lost they've lost their identity. They've lost their way. They don't understand. A good story will sell. It doesn't matter what the title is. It doesn't matter what the characters are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have gay characters. It doesn't matter if you have black characters. It doesn't matter what they are. If it's a good story, it'll sell. People will get behind it. And people will go, huh. If it's a good story, people will go, oh, women can be the leading story. Women can do a lot of things. However, if you beat people over the head with, she does this because she's a woman, because she's this, people go, well, I don't care. I don't care that she's a woman. I care that the story matches, that the story's really good. I mean, I can go back to a lot. I can go back to a lot of stuff. I can go back to Captain Marvel. I don't hate Captain Marvel because it's a woman. I hate Captain Marvel because he screwed up the Skrulls. You screwed up the story. And when I say that, they go, and when I say that to the fans who want to get at me, oh, you just don't like it because she's a woman. I'm like, it has nothing. I'm like, I don't care. It has nothing to do with the Skrulls. I care that they messed up, and I want that fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but you just don't like it because she's a woman. No, I don't care. Again, I don't care. But that's how they're marketing things these days, and you're seeing it in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go to movies. A lot of movies are tanking, not even reaching their budget. Yet Top Gun 2 comes out. No apologies, no marketing to certain groups. Comes out and makes over $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a good movie, it had a good story, and people got behind it. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need. That's all you need is a good story. Have a good story, and people will get behind you.
Mm-hmm.
But we live in a world of identity politics now. And again, it circles back to
Mm-hmm.
LeBron James saying these people are racist. No, it's your identity. It has nothing to do with you. People, Boston fans don't like you because you wear purple. And Boston fans don't like to see purple in their arena. That's the way it is. They want green and white. Anything else is gonna get booed, and you're gonna get things yelled at you. I mean, if LeBron James' comments had anything, Draymond Green and Klay Thompson were complaining about the Boston fans in the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were racist against LeBron, it had nothing to do with LeBron because they're like that to everyone. Because apparently Draymond and Klay were feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It was the color of the jersey. But again, that doesn't sell. What sells is the identity politics and LeBron trying to spin a story that makes no sense. And you saying the ironic part of you're an owner of a Boston team. Like some kind of thought would be okay. But again, no, I mentioned this before. Number one reason why I hate LeBron James: opens his mouth when he shouldn't. Says something that is completely off. I mean, you're a Texas. You're in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
When LeBron James came out and said Beto O'Rourke is the best candidate for senator of Texas, and I was like, you live in Ohio.
Right.
You have no idea what Texans want.
Right.
And then Ted Cruz comes in and just crushes him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, LeBron, don't open your mouth about things you don't know about.
Yeah.
You don't live in Texas, so you can't tell Texans what's going to be best for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you live there, that's a different story.
Right.
You can't go to Texas, tell people how to think, and then get completely blown out of the water.
Mm. That's LeBron for you, though.
the joy of LeBron James. And think about it. He's not even done. He's not even done yet.
Mm-mm.
That's what's scary. That's what's scary to me. Is wait till he's done. Wait till he's done playing.
Yes. Now you're getting me.
Wait till he's done playing, and all he has is to talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering what we're gonna see when that happens. because everybody's so willing to put him on, so willing to let him spew about anything that he wants. And again, we talked about it the other day. I really wish you were there for the conversation Snowman and I had, that if we had it on any legitimate network, we would have been thrown off. We would have been thrown off the air probably 5 seconds into the conversation when I said Title IX is the worst thing that's ever happened in sports.
Yeah, on his face, you would get tossed off the air.
I'd get tossed off the air just after saying that statement. And again, it's by people that don't understand the history of Title IX, and they don't know. They don't have the education I had. Like I said, Title IX started at Springfield College. It was part of my. It was part of our. It's part of my DNA since I got on campus. Was learning about Title IX. So I know everything about it. I know the ins and outs of it. And when I looked at it, I went, this is awful. I went, wait a minute. So you started a bunch of programs, but you also canceled? I was like, you canceled double the programs than you started?
Yeah, it almost sounds counterproductive, doesn't it?
Something's not right here. But if you bring that part of it up, nope. You'll get thrown off the air real quick.
Yeah.
But people are allowed to go on and say, "Oh, Title IX is so great." I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's done some good things, but it's also been used to horribly. It's horribly defamed a lot of sports. A lot of sports had to be cut because of that, and it's the most disastrous thing to ever happen. But because it did one good thing, we can forget about the 9 other things that it did that's horrible. And again, it all depends on your opinion. I mean, like I said, if you believe, hey, it's more important to have equality for women, like me, that was never in question. Like, okay, I don't understand people that think that way. Like, I'm like, yeah, this should have been thought of right out of the gate. Like, yeah, if you have a men's sport, you have a women's sport. Yeah. Done and done.
Yeah.
Opportunities are there. But with Title IX, if you have a football team, there's no women's sport that has 54 people on it. There's no way to equal that. So the way it was drawn up from the beginning, if they just said, "Hey, if you have a women's sport, you have a men's sport," done and done. Seems equal. Seems fitting to me. Yeah. If you have football, you have field hockey. But a field hockey team only has maybe 20 people on it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to try to match it. You know, if you have a football team, you have to have a field hockey team, a gymnastics team, this team, and you can't add a men's sport until you get enough women athletes. No, that's not equal. That's not fair. You know, like I said, a lot of programs had to be cut to make way for that. A lot of wrestling programs were cut. A lot of ice hockey teams were cut. A lot of concessions had to be made for people to get under Title IX, and that's not the spirit. It's not the spirit that it was invented for. But it's what happened. It's the fact. It's the facts of what happened. But again, if you said that on ESPN, they would shut it down. They would shut down, and they'd be like, all right, we'll just go black for the next couple minutes.
Yeah, you knocked that right out the park. That's what I'm talking about. sports journalist, host and producer of the Fifth Down Sports Show, and now new YouTuber. I like saying that about you, Chris Dietz. Join us here on Revelations, and now it is time for us in the I guess in the honor of De La Soul for plug tuning. Now, this is where we have the guest plug whatever he or she wants to plug. It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how long it is, but they have the opportunity to plug any and everything about them. So, with that being said, the floor is yours.
We're trying to get this YouTube thing off the ground. We just started the Fifth Down Sports channel. A lot of things going on over there as we try to navigate this world and try to put things together and try to piece videos together and all that. So I'm learning on the job. I know people want to get high production values. Look, if I turn my computer on and it turns on, it's a good day. Like, I know nothing about computers, so I'm learning how to do this stuff on the fly. So we're going to be putting out a lot of videos, a lot of stuff. We're going to be doing our shows over there. So definitely go over to YouTube, go over to Fifth Down Sports, probably changing to Fifth Down Media soon, because we're going to talk about a lot more than sports over there. So we're going to be getting that, but go to our show, like our videos, slam that subscribe, eventually we want to get to a point where we get enough subscriptions. We can do a lot. We can do a lot of stuff. We can bring guests on. We can start making some money off. We can start getting some money off YouTube. So the more people we have, the merrier. And that's kind of why I was looking at this platform. But we have our YouTube, we have a Spotify page, we have Facebook, any of those are support. I mean, and I was trying to say this for people the other day. I don't do this. I don't do this because I make money. I work for a living. I do this stuff for fun, because it's fun for me. So, if anything we can make money off, by all means, like I love it. But if anybody wants to take this and run it on their networks, I'm all for it. Like, take my show, put it on your network, let it run. We'll see what happens. So that's what we're doing here. That's the reason we do. The reason I do this is just because it's fun. It has nothing to do with anything else. Mm-hmm. And I will only do it if it's fun. Like, obviously, if anybody wants to give me money, I'm never going to turn it down. But I'm never gonna be, I'm gonna say this just so I can get views and just so I can get money. That's not how we work. I'm gonna say what I think. I'm gonna say what I think, and I'm gonna say exactly what I want to say. And again, if you don't like it, tell me you don't like it. Again, the best line we can come up with. Tell me why you're wrong. I love hearing the other side. I don't care if I'm right. I care about why you think that way. Why the best conversations I've had with people are people that don't agree with me, because I get to see it from your point of view. So I urge people out there, if you hear something you don't agree with, by all means, engage with the other people. See what the other side's saying. And that's one of the reasons I implore people to, if you don't like if I say something you don't like, by all means, call the show. Get in touch with me. I will have the conversation with you, because that's what this show is about. It's not about making money. This show is about having discussions and getting discussions out there. So that's what we're doing. That's what the YouTube channel's all about. And if there's any other ways, if anybody knows any other ways to get the thing out there, I'll do that too. You know? So that's what I'm working on.
Well, I totally appreciate you, man. Everything you do, your passion and your and the way you attack journalism, I will always respect and I'll always appreciate. And whenever you feel as though you need to let loose, I will roll the red carpet to you to come back here.
Oh, well, thank you. Like I said, I mean, you can just see by this. I don't mind talking. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about anything, and everything I talk about always goes back to something else. I had somebody the other day, one of my buddies at the bar was like, "You are the worst storyteller because your stories are like 6 stories in one." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, everything's connected, man.
Mm-hmm.
Get with it. I'm like, get with it. Got to connect everything. But that's just that's how I love taking stories that, all right, this story goes to this one, goes to this one, and goes to that. So it's just it's how everything is. And again, that goes back to if somebody disagrees with me, I want to know where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know where our disagreement comes from, because again, if I look at it from your point of view, I might come up with the same conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't get mad. I can't get mad at somebody for disagreeing with me if they have a totally different lifestyle. If they have a totally different life view than me, I can't knock them for that.
Yeah, totally understand that. Totally understand that. The host and producer of the Fit Down Sports Show. I'm hearing a new platform, Fit Down Sports, Fit Down Media, Fit Down Sports Media.
Yeah, because we're gonna be doing a lot of comics, a lot of Marvel, a lot of reviews, and a lot of stuff. And I'm just seeing that, like, when I'm in the other, when I'm in the other chats and it comes up Fit Down Sports, and then I'm talking about, and I'm trying to like talk to somebody about the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that and I'm like, wait, why are these people going to believe me? They're going to be like, wait, they're going to do the exact thing they do with LeBron. They're going to go stick to sports, man.
Right.
And I'm just going to be like, oh. I'm like, I can't argue with it. I can't argue with you. It's in the name.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do some branding on that, but we're gonna like I said, we're gonna talk about everything. We're gonna start doing stuff. It's one of the things I don't like about YouTube is, they're pushing this now. Do a lot more shorter stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to do short. I don't want to do short. They're like, keep it to 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't want to do a 5-minute video. I want to explain my point. I don't want to be. I don't want that. But I got to find a happy medium and figure things out. But like I said, if I have a problem with my computer, I just turn it off, and I turn it off and turn it back on. And if it's not fixed, I turn it off for the day. Like that. I know nothing about computers, so I need to I need to figure that part out, and that way we can get videos going and I can show stuff in the background. So we're going to be doing a lot of that stuff as we go. Okay.
Well, as you hear it here first.
And as I said, I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, you just do this, you just do that, you just do that," and I'm like, I got nothing, man. But then when I do it, I'm like, I do it the same way every time. So it's like, if once I learn how to do it, once I try it a couple times, I'll be good. But
all right.
But it's that trial that trying is always hard. And like I said, this isn't I have a job, so that comes first. and then this is fun, and then this stuff's just fun.
Right.
And it's like I said, I've always done this. I've always been doing this. It just hasn't been live like, you know, it hasn't been live like this. It hasn't been on video. It hasn't been recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and now it is. Now it is. And that's the other thing I want to try to impress on people. Like, get your voice out there. Get your voice out there so that you can go back and say, hey, I said it on this. And, you know, if you come on Fifth Down Sports Show, it's now going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you have a statement and you make it and it's right, you're going to be able to go back to that every day and go, see this clip? That's me. That's me. I said it. I mean, that it's one of the things like I'm able to do. Like I have the clips from the first season I did a show 5 years ago. I'm able to go back and say I said this, and people are like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, oh yeah. And I just play it, and I'm like, remember when I said this? And they're like, oh crap, you did say that. And I'm like, yeah. I said this was gonna happen for like college football expansion. I said it was gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
I said it was gonna happen 5 years ago. All of a sudden it starts, and people are like, I can't believe this is happening. I was like, if you were listening to my program, you know this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know these things are in the works, and that's it. These things are coming, and they're like, you didn't. You know, I get in fights with people at the bar all the time. You didn't say that, and I'm like, hold on a second. I can go back, I can pull it up, and I go, here. I go, read the transcript of what I said, and they're like, oh my god. You know, people are like, oh my god, you did say that. And I'm like, yep. It's fun. And that's how I start. That's how I started. You know, I started by just calling in, talking to people, and by saying I want to get my voice. I want to get my voice out there because I'm that guy. I want it recorded. Like I want it on record that I said this, that I said it on this date, and whatever happens, you know, something happens next week, I want to be able to say, I said it on Sunday, June 22nd. I said it. I said this was going to happen, and look what happened. So I implore people, go out, find your way to do that. And YouTube seems like a good place to do that. Because you can get your comments out there, and it's just a way to do it.
Yeah.
But I love back and forths, man. Back and forth is the way to go. I mean, again, I hate oh, you're so right. Here's why you're right. I don't care why I'm right. I know I'm right. I know I'm right. I know I'm right because I said it. I want to know why I want to know why I'm wrong. Like I want to know why you think I'm wrong. Because I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with us bringing guests on. I don't bring guests on because they're going to I know this person's going to agree with me, so I'll have them on. I bring people on. And I go, here's the topic. Here's what we're talking about. And they go, okay, I'll call in and talk about that. And I'm like, all right. I don't tell them what to say. I don't ask them what they're going to say. I wait until it comes out on the radio, and I have that reaction to it. My reaction to it is how I want it to be portrayed.
Right.
I don't want to know what they think. I want to be as surprised as anybody else. Like I had my brother on a couple weeks ago, and he totally disagreed with me. He said you're crazy, and I was like, okay, why? And then he got to tell his side, I got to tell my side, and everybody walks away, and anybody who listened to it, they can either be on his side or my side. That's it. It's perfect.
Yeah, totally. Well, you have the host and producer of the Fifth Down Sports Show, probably going to be Tweet the Fifth Down Media sometime soon, and sports journalist and writer and a huge sports fan. I love talking with him. Definitely football for sure, and a little bit of baseball history. I love talking with him. Chris Dietz, man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on Revelation, sir.
And I know this is Revelations, but I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw this out there until you guys get it on Snowman in the Morning. I want my Mike Piazza home run.
All right.
I want my cut up.
All right.
Dude, you guys talk about baseball calls. You got to listen to that call. It's one of the best radio calls I've ever heard in my entire life.
Okay. All right.
Because Mike Piazza hits the ball, and Howie Rose goes deep to center field. This one's got a chance. And if you listen to it off the bat, I'm sitting there going, what does it have a chance of? That ball was gone from the minute he hits it, the entire stadium explodes. Everybody knew it was gone. Everybody knew it was a home run, except for Howie Rose. Howie Rose tries to keep you because he's doing the radio call, so you can't see it. So he's trying to keep you in suspense. But there's not a question in your mind when he hits it. I was like, has a chance of what? I was like, that has a chance of what? Hitting a plane? Because that thing is out of the stadium before he even said it. I was like, oh my God. It's one of the best calls I've ever heard.
All right.
Plus the fact it was a home run. It was the home run after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was. I've said this. It's the most important home run in the history of baseball. Because it wasn't just a Mets home run.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't just the Mets won the game.
Right.
It was America's back.
Mm-hmm.
It was it. I remember watching that game. I was watching with a Braves fan, and we high-fived and hugged after it. Like that's how important that home run was. And you can hear it in the stadium. The stadium is quiet. I've never heard a stadium that quiet. He hits the ball and the entire stadium shakes because that was Shea Stadium. Shea Stadium used to shake.
Right.
When it got loud enough, the whole stadium shook. And you hear it explode in a second. People went from dead quiet to absolutely losing their minds in a snap. And then you got Howie Rose. This has a chance. I'm like, a chance? I'm like, nobody has a chance on that. It's gone. It's awesome.
God. All right. Well, I will definitely do that. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. And again, anytime.
Many thanks to Chris Dietz for joining us here on Revelations. And why don't you join us every Tuesday on YouTube, where you will see a different person sitting in the guest chair being interviewed by me each week. For changing the world one conversation at a time, I'm Cole Johnson, and this has been Revelations. Thank you for tuning into Revelations. To download this episode, go to Acast and type Revelations. For apparel, go to Spring and type Revelations. Music by Lakey Inspired.